weekend was very entertaining. I know from your vantage point. Let's just start with the variables going into this race with the weather and the tires and everything going on. What'd you think?
I thought it was great. I thought, when we were in the garage and they were putting the wet weather tires on, we were doing pre-race show, and I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, we are in for a treat at the start of this race, and we're going to go. They waited about 15 or 20 minutes because it was raining. NASCAR is still a little bit tentative, making sure that everybody's safe and it's going to be okay, and that, especially with a points race. At North Wilkesboro, when we did this the first time in the heat races, there wasn't any points on the line. If something went wrong, it was a great time to learn. But this is a points race, and they were still a little bit tentative. I think that the spray wasn't as much as we all thought it would be. Yeah. I think that the cars handled really well with the wet weather tires on. And I think next time we probably could have started that race on time, even with the light rain that was coming down, and been just fine, because the cars, they look great. They dropped the green flag, and they were from the yellow line all the way to the wall. And everybody thought that the cars drove well. So I kudos to NASCAR for dropping the green flag. And I think that probably saved us probably an hour and a half.
Huge.
That's a big deal when you have fans in the stands and people watching on home to get the race started on time. I think, if they had started in the pit stalls on pit road with the downdraft, drying the pit stalls themselves would have really helped the process. And I think the only adjustment that I would make is probably when you go from wet tires to slick tires, having a single file restart. Because when you go from wets to slicks, that one lane is the only thing that is dry. Yep. And then you don't have to run those double file caution laps and take a chance of that second lane not being as dry as possible. I think you might, if you had a single file restart after you go to the slick tires, I think that puts everybody in a little better position, and it doesn't have to be as dry.
Yeah.
What'd you think about it going into just watching, like wondering how this is going to unfold?
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I was like, like I said, I was at the airport and I'm unpacking, and this lady, I was getting my rental car up. She's like, "Were you at the racetrack?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Man, they're not gonna get this thing in at training." I'm like, "Ma'am, you do not know new NASCAR. We are gonna be getting after it here in like 20 minutes." And I was stoked, right? Like having the rain tires to get an event going. So at least bare minimum, we can get it to halfway. And then we end up getting the whole thing in. Because to your point, if we wait another hour, like that race ain't getting over till like almost midnight.
Yeah, it was already late.
Yes.
So that made a huge difference. And I agree with you. I think now that we know kind of what it does, we can start on pit road. And then let the cars kind of dry up the racetrack.
Yeah, because I think the pit boxes are the main thing to have dry. Yep. I think you need to blow the standing water off of pit road, but I think you have to start with the pit stalls to get the teams a head start to get their boxes dry. And I think we can get to competitive pit stops a little faster, because really the reason that we don't have competitive pit stops is you don't want the cars sliding through the pit boxes into a car that's having a pit stop. So there is a real safety concern there. But I don't think coming in on rain tires with your pit box dry and all the standing water off of pit road, I think you could go right to competitive pit stops, have a single file restart, and everything be fine. So, and I think back, and I think back to some of those races, we used to have every inch of that racetrack dry.
All of it.
Every inch of pit road dry. When we got done with the racetrack still wasn't dry in the top groove and on pit road, and everything was fine. And the cars actually have more grip than you think they do. Even when the asphalt is not, it looks discolored, it's got a lot more grip than you think it would.
So listening to you guys talk reminded me of a quote I heard from Booty Barker, crew chief, obviously for Bubba. When we go to slicks, it's a massive change. You're going to think something's broken until you settle back in. Can you explain what that means, the change, and how it feels for the driver?
So first off, the rain tires have no stagger. So there's about 1 1/8 or 1 1/4 of stagger in the slick tires, which means the right side tires are bigger than the left side tires. The rain tires have 0, so it's the same tires on both sides. So they had impound adjustments, which allowed the teams on those non-competitive stops and before the race to be able to adjust their cars to what they thought their balance needed to be on the rain tires. But I think that the biggest thing about the tires and everything that comes with the rain is just getting the balance right, understanding that we probably could have gone 40 laps, I'd say, on the rain tires, maybe 45. I think we could have gone a further distance on those rain tires. So So anyway, I think it's you know, the process went really good. I kind of lost my train of thought here as to where I was going with this. So go ahead and fix this for me.
Yeah, no, I got you. I think what you were trying to say is it's a completely different feel in the
That's
car.
what it was.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
completely
getting
different
old.
Feel. Yeah, I
So-
saw he's over here looking at his.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you
I
gonna
started
land
going
the
through
plane?
I started going through my list here, and I got lost in my train of thought.
You can't read those chicken
But
scratches
back
over
to
there.
Back to Kaitlyn's question. The tires definitely feel different. The rain tires move around more in
Okay.
the back, and a lot of that comes from just the tread and the way that the tread moves, which is why we went to more tread on the tires to put heat in the tire, and the drivers felt like it gave the car more feel, and you had more feel on the tire. So that actually came from the rain tires at North Wilkesboro. So and when the rain tires start to wear out, they feel like, with the old car you felt like track bars broke, but with this car, it just the back of the car, the whole car just starts to feel a little bit more yawed out in the way that it turns, and then you put those slick tires on, it feels like you put bricks back on the car.
Okay, see, I was
Yeah.
wondering what the differences
Yeah,
were.
so just the feel of the car goes from really soft and mushy to stiff and rigid, and it's a big adjustment for the drivers to have to go from one tire to the other.
The racing, when they went back to green with Bubba and Larson on the front row, when they switched the tires, I was like, these boys are about to wad them all up,
Yeah.
because the patch that you need to be on it's a very fine line, because the groove hadn't really widened out yet. And because of that, Bubba was leaning hard on Larson. Well, if Larson drives in there just a little too deep or catches a patch on the bottom, they're all washing up the hill and wrecking. So these are some of the best drivers in the world, without doubt.
Yeah. Well, that outside lane, that's one reason when I was talking about just going single file, because you could spread that groove out naturally.
Yep.
That gave us some great moments right there on the restart. And Bubba knew that second groove was dry, but it didn't look dry.
No.
It didn't look dry.
It was shiny.
And so he, like you say, he was literally against Kyle Larson's door trying to keep him pinned down, and that's what he had to do. So I like everything that we did. I think that natural evolution of when do we put reins on or slicks on after the first time, NASCAR's kind of taken that into a safety measure, and the process is to get the track dry, not come on pit road the first time. But I think after that, you got to kind of just let it go and see where it all goes, because one of the things that made it the most intriguing was the racetrack drying and evolving, and whose cars were good and whose cars were bad kind of changed through that whole first part of that race, because of the fact that the track was rubbering back up, it was drying. There were a lot of things that were coming into play that just took a little bit longer into the race than if we'd have just started on a dry track.
Yeah, and if you want to be a little more ballsy with the weather radials, you could do that and probably make up some time. If you knew that, like, man, we might not have as good of a car, but let me get some track position and maybe we can play this game.
And we saw that a little bit, because the one line was dry, but when you had to start making passes on the entry, the bottoms of the straightaway were you had to go into the damper part of the racetrack in order to put yourself in a position to pass.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I think everybody was learning. NASCAR learned, the drivers learned, and I think we can definitely do it. We will do it better the next time, but from where we were at North Wilkesboro to where we were at Richmond in an actual points race was a great step.
Hey, race fans, thanks for watching our video. For all NASCAR on Fox News content and the best clips from Fox Sports, be sure to follow and subscribe to our channel.